Welcome to this episode of Year in Review. In the previous episode, we spoke about careers and we looked at the RAP framework of managing and thinking about careers. And one of the biggest opportunities to make a career these days is in entrepreneurship. So, in this episode, we are going to be focusing on startups. That's a big world out there. It is an intimidating world as well, the world of entrepreneurship. And to make matters worse, there are these jargons floating around. Under the hood, they are very simple concepts, but if you don't know what these three-letter acronyms stand for, then you would be in a fix. You keep it simple and you're able to understand everything. But the moment you wrap it up within jargons which you do not understand, you think that you're missing something big, some huge fundamental concept, and you are not aware of so many things. But if you really try and understand, these are not very complex things. So, what I'm going to be doing in this episode is demystifying 23 of these jargons that can help you in your startup and entrepreneurial journey in 2023. So, with that, let's get started right from the journey of entrepreneurship, from the moment you hit upon that idea that can change the world. The first thing that you need to assess is the TAM. TAM being the total addressable market. Nothing very complicated. There is a natural tendency for one to get very aggressive when one is thinking about the TAM, to think of addressing everybody in the world as our target market because we love our product, we love our idea, and we think everybody needs it. But the idea here is to go as narrow as possible, and you will see in the next couple of steps why this is very important. Because the next step deals with creating that product, and product here could mean a product, it could mean a service, anything that your organization delivers to generate revenues. So the next step is to have this product market fit, or as is commonly known in the industry, to get your PMF right. What does this mean? In very simple terms, all it means is that whatever you are offering needs to fit into the needs of the market or the customer. It's the most obvious thing, isn't it? You are not making a product or selling a service to satisfy your own need to make it. You are doing this so that you are able to solve somebody else's problem. And that is the only way you make money, by solving somebody else's problem. So the reason why I mentioned that you need to think of your TAM and your market in as narrow terms as possible is that it helps you refine and come up with the right PMF, or the product market fit. If you go too broad, then the chances are that you want to be everything to everybody and you end up being nothing to anyone. And that's not a good position to be in. And the reason why this is not great news is because you need to build that product out and ship it out, or you need to start providing these services. All of this require cost, they require investment. And not only that, because you haven't got your PMF right yet, you will need to do some iterations. So the trick then is in the third acronym, which is the MVP, or the minimum viable product. The idea here is that instead of building something which is military grade, which can go to space and survive on Mars and the moon, what you need to do is just build something quick and dirty, which is the minimum viable product, or the MVP, which is just enough to meet the basic and the core needs of the customer. Hence, the narrower you define your target market and the more pointed your product or service is, the easier it will be to create that MVP, to get your PMF, and to actually realize the potential of your TAM. Got it? It's already getting to be quite a handful. And this is one of the reasons why people get lost in jargons. If we would have paraphrased this in very simple terms, focus on a narrow customer segment, understand their needs, build an iterative product at low cost which is able to meet the basic core needs of the customer, and you will get going. It would have been very simple to understand. Even a child would have been able to understand that. Instead of that, people start talking in jargons, they throw in TAM and they throw in variants of that. What is your TAM? What is your SAM? What is your CAM? It's all a sham, isn't it? Anyway, moving on from developing your minimum viable product and having got your initial pilot customers or beta customers, what you want to do is scale up your idea and your product and service and take it to the market. How do you segment the market? And how do you reach the various segments of the market that you are interested in at the lowest possible cost and in the most efficient manner? These are some of the elements which have found a jargon for themselves, which is GTM, Or what is your GTM strategy? What does this mean? What is your go-to-market strategy? As in, what is your market and how will you reach that market? How will you approach that market? Or in other words, what will be your GTM strategy? Once you have all of these elements in place, the chances are that you would need funding and you would start speaking to investors. They will bombard you with all of these questions. But if you think through all of these issues from first principles and you know what you're trying to do, the answers should not be too difficult to get. Do not focus on the PPT, which is a PowerPoint presentation, by the way, but focus on your core business and focus on the problems and the needs of the customer that you are solving, and everything will fall into place. This is how the investors will be assured that they have the right kind of ROI or return on investment from the money that they are investing in you and in your startup or your entrepreneurial venture. The way the investors and the entire startup ecosystem look at valuations, particularly of early stage enterprises, is an entire topic in itself. That could take hours or days to even uncover the basic layers of it. But we will not go anywhere near that in this episode. Suffice it to say that the investors should be assured that they get an ROI out of their investment. Apart from all of these factors that we have just mentioned, they also look at the quality of the promoters and the founders, their prior experience, the skill sets that they have, how many founders or co-founders are they, what kind of skill sets do they have amongst each one of them, how much have they worked together with each other. In addition to this, one of the key things that they look at is your MRR or ARR. These jargons are very simple to understand once you know what they stand for. So this is nothing but your recurring revenues, and this could be measured on a monthly basis, on an annual basis. Typically, in a growth stage startup at an early stage, investors would be more interested in the MRR because the ARR or the annual run rate or annual recurring revenue may no longer be representative of the momentum of the startup's revenue in that month or for the coming few months. They would also be interested in understanding the growth rates, and these could be looked at on a MOM, QOQ, or YOY basis. What do these terms mean? Simple. If you're comparing a month against the previous month, it's month on month. If you're comparing a quarter versus another quarter, it's quarter on quarter. And if you're comparing the metrics with the metrics of the previous year, then that's year on year. It's nothing more complicated than that. These comparisons could be made on sequential basis or a yearly basis. Sequential basis simply means that you're comparing this month or this quarter to the previous month or previous quarter. Whereas on a yearly basis, you would compare this month to the same month last year. Typically, in a high growth environment, the year on year comparisons would not make much sense. Once we are talking to the investors, it's also very important to think about the SHAs. Now, what is SHAs? SHAs is nothing but the shareholders agreement. It's an agreement between all the shareholders, and if there are multiple co-founders, it is important that a shareholders agreement inter se these co-founders is at least put in place in writing even before the first set of investors come on board. It's not very often that people end up doing this in a very formal sort of manner because there is an element of trust and there is an element of fluidity in the entire operations and the future itself of the startup. So putting all of these things in writing, getting a legal team involved just seems to be too much of an overhead. You are too focused on the TAM, MVP, GTM, and so on and so forth. Once we've reached this stage, it is time to level up. And the way to level up is by focusing on the core part of the organization. And as we mentioned earlier, the core of the organization resides in solving the needs of a particular customer segment. So let's focus on the customer. In order to grow the business, we need to ensure not only that we have more customers, but we also increase the LTV of the customers. Now, what is LTV? It's nothing but the lifetime value of the customer. And in simple terms, all it means is the total amount of money that you can make by engaging with the customer over the lifetime of your dealing with that customer. So the higher the LTV, the better it is for you and the more you can spend on trying to acquire that customer. And particularly in startups that are dealing with a business to consumer model or a B2C model, they find that the customer acquisition costs or the CAC is very high. But let's break it down a step further. The first thing that we need to do even before we make a customer is to identify a lead or somebody who could potentially become a customer. And a lot of effort goes into acquiring leads. And one of the key metrics that people use in the industry is CPL, or cost per lead. And once we capture a lead, the idea is to nurture the lead all the way through to the stage when these leads become our customers. And all of this can be a very complex process, especially if you're dealing with multiple sales channels, multiple communication channels, and customers are coming in through various funnels. And all of this can be managed seamlessly through something known as CRM, or customer relationship management systems. And these are systems which help you manage the entire sales funnel or the sales life cycle. And one of the terms that is used in the industry as we go about optimizing this process of conversion is called CRO, or conversion rate optimization. So you have CPL, which is cost per lead, and then you have CRO, which is conversion rate optimization. So if your cost per lead is lower and if you've got a good grip on CRO, or conversion rate optimization, then automatically as a result, your CAC, or your customer acquisition cost, will be on the lower side. And at this stage, with so much happening on the digital marketing side and the customer acquisition side, you may find that putting in place an organization which deals with each of these things may be too much of an overhead. So you may want to start engaging with various digital marketing agencies or growth hackers or other such organizations which may call themselves by more fanciful names just to distinguish themselves from the other players in the market. And while you're thinking about acquisition of customers, bear in mind that you should exhaust all possible avenues and sources before you start spending a lot of money on just one channel. First and foremost, tap your network, your existing network, your extended network. Shamelessly ask people for help. Look at digital marketing, both inbound as well as outbound, and look at SEM, and get ready to be flooded in a sea of jargons, because there are more than a plenty in this whole world of digital marketing. Irrespective of whether you are doing inbound marketing or outbound marketing, CTRs are extremely important. Now, what is CTR? CTRs are nothing but the click-through rates. So whether you're giving an ad or whether traffic is coming inbound to you through search engines, what you want to do is for more and more people to click through and reach you. And hence, it is very important to not just keep a track of your CTRs, but benchmark it with the performance of the industry as also with your prior performance, and ensure that you're not slipping on your CTRs or the click-through rates. If your CTRs are falling, it is a sure shot indicator that you need to fix something or the other. One of the big areas where everybody is focusing and investing heavily is in the space of social media marketing. Gone are the days when social media was a place where friends and known people used to hang out with each other. It's become a marketer's paradise. And if you need to reach more and more customers beyond a certain point and scale, there is no way you can reach that sort of scale without leveraging SMM, or social media marketing. Success in this space also requires you to look at your CTAs, or call to actions. These CTAs could be anywhere. They could be in your email marketing, they could be in your social media campaigns, they could be on your Facebook or Google ads. They are typically all over the place because that is what activates your funnel. That is when people see content related to you and are able to click through and reach you. And now, talking about content and content marketing, things have changed dramatically over the last few years, and there have been some developments this year which indicate that the shift is going to become even more dramatic going forward. I am talking about the area of NLP and GPT-3. I've already spoken about NLP in a great amount of detail in one of the earlier episodes. You will find the link in the description, and you will also find all of these episodes in the playlist. But just to set the context so that we do not disrupt the flow of our conversation, NLP is essentially natural language processing, which helps computers understand the language that we speak. And one of the new age developments in the space of NLP is GPT-3, which is essentially a generative algorithm through which computers are able to generate text and generate content of any sort. So trust me, you're going to find a lot of the use cases and applications of GPT-3 in the form of ChatGPT or otherwise included in the service offerings, the operating models and the business models of more and more organizations going forward. In fact, most of the sales copywriting that is happening today in the commercial world is already happening on a lot of the output churned out by these GPT or AI trained algorithms. How will Google and search engines distinguish between genuine human generated content versus content which is generated through these algorithms such as GPT-3 or their successors remains to be seen. But I'm sure you are already aware what SEO is because it stands for search engine optimization, an umbrella term used for all the techniques that you deploy to ensure that your page, your website is ranked higher on the Google search engine or any other search engine for that matter. But since most of the traffic is coming through Google anyways, we are using Google as a surrogate. The other way in which we can use search engines to grow our business is through SEM or search engine marketing, which is an umbrella term which includes not just SEO but also search engine marketing or paid advertising. And as budgets for these sort of advertising campaigns grow and grow, it becomes very important to get your ROAS right. And ROAS is nothing but return on advertising spend. Just like the investor wants return on the investment that he's making in your entrepreneurial venture, you would want to get a return out of all the money that you're spending on these ads. And the way to track it is through all of the measures that we spoke about earlier, ensuring that your CTA is right, you have a high CTR or click-through rate, doing CRO or conversion rate optimization, ensuring that your CPL is low, which is your cost per lead, and along with a low CPL, if you get your CRO right or your conversion rate optimization right, you will automatically get a lower CAC, which is your customer acquisition cost, or CPA, which is cost per acquisition. You can do all of this, but if your LTV is low, then you are not going to get a good ROI. In simpler terms, if the lifetime value of the customer itself is low and all they are doing is one small ticket transaction with you and then they go away after having spent all the effort in acquiring that customer, then your business is not going to make a lot of money and your investor and you will not get the return on your investment or all the effort that you are putting in. So pay attention to each one of these elements, and whether you have a big or small budget for marketing, ensure that you're tracking your CPCs and CPMs. Now, what are CPCs and CPMs? These are nothing but cost per clicks or cost per thousand impressions. But I'm sure we covered at least 23 acronyms. I didn't keep a count, but I'm sure we covered more than 23 acronyms, and more than that, and more importantly, we covered the entire entrepreneurial journey from an idea conceptualization to building the products, identifying the customers, getting your product market fit, getting investors on board, scaling up. But the single most important thing is to take action. Go ahead and start small. As I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, create a low cost, crude MVP or minimum viable product and ensure that you get customer feedback, because there's no point sitting in your own cocoon, in your own little shell and developing a world class product. It can only become world class if it goes out and reaches the customer and customer feedback comes back and enriches it. There has been absolutely no product which was built as a blockbuster and as a perfect military grade product the moment it was first shipped. All products and services and organizations go through their own iterations, and that's the essence of a startup or an entrepreneurial venture, to iterate and to pivot. And since it is so important to take action, there is one action that I need from you. If you found any value in this video, I would love for you to like and share this video and add your comments on what are some of the jargons or some of the things about your entrepreneurial journey or potential entrepreneurial journey that put you in a fix, that put you in a bind. And I will try and create content around it so that it helps you. There are other videos which will also add a lot of value to your entrepreneurial journey that I have included in this year in review, and you will find them in the playlist. And go through some of these videos until I see you in the next episode.